Tonight at 11.
Doom! I love Doom. I love Doom, you love Doom, probably. Everybody loves Doom, citation needed. It runs on everything, has an endless sea of mods, and is even played by rats. Back in the 90s, it was an innovative step forward for the game industry, and a source of much excitement and controversy, because everything in the 90s was. Then after a long absence, which left many wondering if the series was dead for good, it burst out of its grave in 2016 with Doom. Everyone loved it and it sold well, successfully thrusting the series back into the spotlight, not to mention bringing in new fans in the process. Phew, good thing we didn't get that generic post-apocalyptic game that would have killed the franchise instead, right? Very funny, but no, that doesn't count. In 2016's wake came an excellent sequel and a flood of memes. Oh, the memes. Too angry to die, he is the traumatic event, load shotgun with malicious intent. You know him, you love him, and you're probably sick of them by now because you've heard them nonstop for close to a decade. Look, I know we Doom fans are experts at beating jokes into the ground, but cut us some slack. Doom was back and better than ever. The new series was everything we wanted from a modern reboot and more, with all the polish you'd expect from a AAA production. And how could you not love Mick Gordon's music? It's adrenaline pumping, propulsive, the perfect backdrop for demon slaying. It just kicks ass. But I think it's safe to say that Doom: The Dark Ages has failed to reach the cultural heights of the previous games. Not to say that it reviewed poorly, but it just didn't catch on. For comparison, in their first months alone, 2016 and Eternal moved millions of copies. The Dark Ages sold less than 1 million. 2016 and Eternal's soundtracks were instantly iconic. I doubt you could get anyone to hum even one of the tracks from the Dark Ages. So why is everyone so cold on this game? Was it because of the Mick Gordon controversy? Or the story? Dare I even suggest that? Maybe the gameplay was too different? Let's find out.
It would appear that the Slayer no longer wishes to be detained here.
So the Dark Ages takes place somewhere between Doom 64 and Doom 2016. The Doom Slayer is still ripping and tearing through the never-ending hordes of demons, but this time while under the control of the malevolent Makers. They formed an uneasy alliance with the Sentinels led by King Novik and his daughter Thera, in order to repel the forces of hell led by Azrak, who seeks the heart of Argent Anor, which would give him godlike powers. Unbeknownst to the Sentinels, however, the Makers plan on betraying them, so the Doomslayer must find a way to break free of their control while doing what he does best: killing demons. Lots of demons. Now here's what I, a self-proclaimed fan of the divisive Doom games, think of the latest entry in that particular subcategory. I think I really like it. Ellipses? Question mark? Yeah, that's a pull quote if I've ever heard one. Well, let's get the obvious complaints out of the way. The music is underwhelming. It's not terrible or even bad, but it's little more than wallpaper, which, needless to say, is not how I'd describe the music in 2016 in Eternal. For many Doom fans, this could easily land the Dark Ages with a D- and a see me after class note. It doesn't for me, but it is a major strike against it. Forgive the football analogy, but Mick Gordon's music was like the proverbial 12th player, i.e. the crowd. Loud, motivating, and impossible to ignore. People liked his music because it was in your face, angry, unhinged, and every track was distinct. In comparison, the Dark Ages soundtrack is so bland that if you were to pair it with gameplay of a random boomer shooter, no one would think it was originally from a Doom game. It's mainly generic guitar and drum riffs, which are nearly drowned out by the sounds of explosions and dying demons. Those aren't the worst sounds in the world, but come on, a vital piece of the Doom gameplay chorus is missing. How could you not be upset by that? And while we're still complaining, oh boy, let's talk about the story, or more specifically, the storytelling. I knew something was off when I picked up a codex entry in the first level, and as I started reading it, my eyes glazed over. Keep in mind, I happily read every codex entry in 2016 and Eternal, but in the Dark Ages, I couldn't. They're so dry and overridden that after the third or fourth one, I just gave up. I still collected them for the achievement, but couldn't bring myself to actually read them. Look, even if you didn't love the expanded lore in 2016 and Eternal, which some people didn't, you could easily ignore it and enjoy the story on its own. Not so with the Dark Ages, which has gone full MCU with its big, bloated, cosmic war storyline. To that end, I don't think it's a coincidence that the Dark Ages is the most unevenly paced of the new trilogy. Eternal may have been wobbly in parts, but it still had momentum and urgency. The Dark Ages does not. I think this is a sign that the Doom series has lost the plot, no pun intended. All these background details have been mistakenly pushed to the foreground, resulting in dull cutscenes in which bland characters discuss the internal politics of the Doom universe. Joy of joys.
Our enemy is divided. The time is now. And the heart of Argent gives us the power to conquer the beast and crush his allies.
The Horde is yours to command. For now, Prince Azaric. I will be informing the High Council of your progress.
Excess is a word I wrote down in my notes. And without wishing to labor the point any further, 2016's story worked because it wisely kept the stuff in the background. The story wasn't sacrificed for the sake of the lore, like a bad D&D campaign. This is why my unofficial title for the game is Doom the Kitchen Sink, because it feels like a dumping ground for all the weird ideas that didn't make it into 2016 and Eternal. Sure, why the fuck not? Admittedly, the Lovecraftian elements and environments are cool, as out of place as they are, but I think this is a sign that we've taken the series as far as we can right now. Let's give it a break before we start doing crossovers with Warhammer or some shit. Well, I guess that's a good enough segue into talking about the gameplay, which I greatly enjoyed. Mostly, but I completely reject this idea that the Dark Ages is a slow game. It absolutely is not. You've all been deceived by a misleading marketing campaign. Stand and fight? More like shoot and smack. Seriously, I played it on ultra violence without touching any of the sliders, and was still soaring through the arenas at 1,000,000 miles an hour, blasting demons in the face, which is not to imply that the Dark Ages isn't a different beast compared to the others. 2016 and Eternal had more of an emphasis on verticality, whereas the Dark Ages is more grounded. The levels are wide and open. There are significantly more enemies in each arena. No surprise, it's an extremely hectic game, with the screen often covered with hundreds of projectiles at once, at times feeling more like a bullet hell than an FPS. That's where your shield comes in. You block red projectiles and parry green ones. Simple as. Now, at the beginning, I thought the parry window was too generous, and then as I got further in, I thought, nope, I take it back, good lord, just look at all this shit on screen. So yeah, get some practice in early, because it's an extremely important mechanic, especially when you get to the boss fights. I think that's why I'm fine with the Dark Ages not being as weapon switchy as Eternal. It made sense in Eternal because you didn't have as many enemies to deal with, so you could focus on figuring out which combos work best for non-fodder enemies. The Dark Ages, conversely, is about managing space in the arena, which requires a little more strategy than you'd expect. You launch your shield at a group of fodder enemies, bring it back, and then use it to stunlock an Arachnotron while you obliterate another group of enemies with your rocket launcher or shotgun. Turns out, it's easy to focus on the big guys when you don't have 8,000 projectiles cluttering the screen. Even the armored demons aren't that bothersome once you become more efficient with your shield. To put it simply, in Eternal, you were a surgeon with a scalpel. In the Dark Ages, you're a windshield wiper. And I'd be lying if I said it wasn't fun at all. So what about the malign dragon and mech sections, huh? To be honest, I don't understand the vitriol. They aren't the best, but for all the bitching and moaning they've inspired, I expected them to be much worse. Look man, you have less than a handful of mech sections and they're only a few minutes long. That's not so bad. They're a fun, meaty distraction, and you get to use a giant shotgun, and Spartan kick a demon into a pit. At worst, they're mechanically simplistic. I do wish there was a little more nuance to the gameplay other than just punching and dodging. But hey, maybe that's something they'll improve in the DLC, if it ever comes out. The dragon sections, on the other hand, okay, I understand why people dislike these. The trailers made it seem like we'd be in for some Ace Combat thrills. Instead, it's a glorified commute between objectives. You fly around, shoot a couple of cannons, land on a platform, do the objective, and then hop back on. Rinse and repeat. And the dogfights are especially unimpressive. The enemy fighters don't shoot at you or even try to evade your attacks. They just fly around in a circle until you finally shoot them down. There's no cat and mouse gameplay, no real challenge outside of trying not to doze off. They're just monotonous. A swing and a miss for the dragon sections, but at least the glory kills are pretty badass. So that's Doom the Dark Ages. The gameplay, extremely fun, barring a few missteps. It's different from Eternal, and hey, that's fine by me. The story, or rather the storytelling, confused. Not confusing, confused. It's a grand old time overall, but also demonstrable proof that Doom needs a break. Let the Slayer rest, he's been through enough. Besides, people have been asking for Quake 5, why not make that instead? Or something new? Or how about Rage 3? Everyone's been clamoring for another one. Okay, I can't even say that with a straight face.
Just want to know how you feel about Rob Zombie's version of Halloween.
Next question.